For 4 minutes during a tour stop in 1996, Tina Turner fell asleep in the makeup chair. The woman working on her face kept her hands completely still. She did not wake her. She did not call anyone. She would describe those 4 minutes to her daughter 12 years later as the most extraordinary thing she witnessed in 30 years of working in her profession. The Wildest Dreams tour moved through Europe in the autumn of 1996 with the organized momentum of a production that had been running for months and had learned to process its own complexity without friction. Venues were confirmed, and then arrived at, and then left behind. Crews were hired locally, integrated into the touring structure, and then released when the production moved on. The machine was large, and it worked. Sarah had been hired as a makeup artist for the local crew at one of the European stops. She was in her mid-30s, experienced enough to have worked major productions before, professional enough to have learned the particular discipline of her craft, which is to say, you are there to serve the work, not to make an impression, not to have an experience, and certainly not to be noticed. She had been told what to expect. A pre-show session of approximately 45 minutes. Specific products and techniques had already been specified by the touring makeup team. She was there to execute, not to interpret. Tina Turner arrived at the makeup chair 11 minutes later than scheduled. This was not unusual. Pre-show schedules for major touring productions exist as aspirational documents. The actual minutes are negotiated in real time against the competing demands of 100 other things that also need to happen before 8 o'clock. What Sarah noticed immediately was the quality of Tina Turner's tiredness. Not the ordinary tiredness of a busy day. Something deeper. The specific depletion that accumulates in the body over months of performances and travel, and the 1,000 small demands of being a public person at the scale Tina Turner existed at. She sat in the chair. She greeted Sarah briefly, politely, warmly, but briefly. And then she closed her eyes. This was not unusual. Many performers close their eyes during makeup application. It is easier. It is also, for someone who spends most of their waking hours with their face in a state of deliberate expression, a small relief. Sarah began working. She knew the moment it happened. There is a specific change that occurs in a face when consciousness steps back, a softening around the jaw and the brow that is distinct from the relaxation of simply resting with eyes closed. The muscles that we use to maintain our expression, even in repose, release in a slightly different way. The face becomes something more like its own private self, the version that exists only when no one is watching. Tina Turner's face, in sleep, was utterly still. Sarah stopped. Not from uncertainty about what to do. She knew exactly what to do. She stopped because something in her recognized that this was a moment that deserved a different quality of attention than the task she had been focused on. She was looking at a woman who had been performing for 4 decades, who had survived things that Sarah knew from the autobiography she had read years earlier, who had stood on stages in front of hundreds of thousands of people and given them everything she had, and then gotten on a plane and gone somewhere else and done it again. And here, in a makeup chair in a European city, she was asleep. 4 minutes of actual rest, stolen from a schedule that had not planned for them. Her hands in her lap, her breathing slow and even. The performance, for 4 minutes, entirely set down. Sarah did not move. She barely breathed. She held her brush in her hand, and she simply let the 4 minutes be what they were. She thought about what it cost, not financially, not professionally, but in the physical currency of a human body, to do what Tina Turner did at the level she did it. She thought about the discipline required to keep that level of output sustained across months and years. She thought about what it must mean to have a face that the world recognized, and what it cost to wear that face every day, and what 4 minutes of setting it down might feel like from the inside. She thought about her own daughter, who was 7 years old, who would never know this moment existed, who would grow up in a world where Tina Turner's music was simply part of the atmosphere, available, permanent, there when you needed it, without any accounting for what had gone into making it. After 4 minutes and 11 seconds, Tina Turner opened her eyes. She registered what had happened immediately, the slight disorientation of someone returning from an unexpected absence, followed by the rapid reassembly of awareness. She looked at Sarah. She looked at the mirror. She said, "I'm sorry." Sarah said, "Please don't be." A short silence. Then Tina Turner looked at her reflection and then back at Sarah and asked, with the directness that people who have been in their profession for a long time sometimes develop, "Did you stop?" Sarah told her the truth. She said yes. She had stopped. She had just watched. Another silence, longer. Tina Turner said, "Thank you. Not for the makeup, for the watching." The rest of the session proceeded normally. An assistant appeared at the door to communicate something about the schedule. The machine continued to move. By 8 o'clock, Tina Turner was on a stage in front of thousands of people, and the face that Sarah had been tending was back in its performance state, alive, commanding, built for the room. Sarah stood in the wings for part of the show. She was not required to. Her work was done. She could have gone home. But she wanted to see. She watched the performance and she thought about the 4 minutes. About how the same person who had been completely still in a makeup chair was now filling a space of several thousand people with a sustained energy that seemed to have no bottom to it. She thought, you give people what they need because you have learned to gather it from somewhere. And sometimes the gathering happens in 4 minutes of a makeup chair in a city between cities. She told her daughter the story when her daughter was 19. She did not tell it as a famous person's story. She told it as a story about what she had learned, about what it looks like to maintain something over a long time, and where the maintenance happens, and why watching someone rest can sometimes teach you more than watching them perform. Her daughter listened. Then her daughter asked, "What was it like, those 4 minutes?" Sarah thought for a moment. Then she said, "It was like watching someone put something down that was very heavy, for just long enough to remember what their hands felt like without it, and then pick it back up again." The people who build legacies, who make things that outlast the moment of their making, are not inexhaustible. They are human. They fall asleep in makeup chairs for 4 minutes and apologize for it, and are grateful when someone simply watches without judgment. The legacy of Tina Turner is in the recordings and the performances and the record books. It is also in these 4 minutes. In the face that Sarah kept still. In the thank you that was not for the makeup. It takes everything to give everything. Sometimes you need someone to hold the space while you set it down. And sometimes that is its own kind of gift. If this story moved you, share it with someone today. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment. What does it mean to you that the people who give the most also need to rest? We tell these stories because they deserve to be told. We'll see you in the next one.